This video is brought to you by Squarespace. At this stage in the process, I think it's safe to say that Sauce Gardner has emerged as the consensus number one cornerback in the 2022 NFL Draft. Now that athletic testing is wrapped up and everyone has had a chance to dive into his tape, Gardner seems like a lock to be the first corner taken on April 28th, but in my opinion, he's still underrated. After I watched some of his tape, I took a look at his stats and coverage last season at Cincinnati, and I did not believe what I was seeing. So before we jump into that tape, I'm going to do my best to explain how insane Gardner's final season in college football was, and how it compares to that of some of the top cornerback prospects over the past decade or so. Despite dropping into coverage over 400 times last year, Gardner was only targeted on 30 of those snaps, and only allowed 13 total receptions. Among all FBS corners in the 2021 regular season who took more than 300 snaps in coverage, Gardner ranked first in snaps per target and first in snaps per reception allowed. He allowed a completion percentage of just 43.3%, which also ranked in the top 10 among qualifying FBS corners, and he allowed a passer rating of just 11.5. Yeah, quarterbacks had a passer rating of 11.5 when they targeted Gardner in coverage in 2021. Oh, and in 3 years of starting at corner for Cincinnati, Sauce never allowed a touchdown. Since Pro Football Focus started tracking these stats, we haven't seen anyone come close to this level of dominance at the cornerback position. And that includes guys who were picked in the top 5 like Jeffrey Okudah, Denzel Ward, and Jalen Ramsey. Those guys did come from Power 5 conferences, but in their final seasons before entering the draft, Okudah, Ward, and Ramsey didn't come close to Gardner in terms of coverage stats. Like I said, we've never seen a cornerback come into the league with numbers like these. But as we know, college production is an incomplete and often misleading portion of the evaluation process. The next step is to look at Gardner's traits and how they'll translate at the next level. At 6'3", 190 pounds, Gardner's frame is more than ideal for an NFL corner. According to mockdraftable.com, his height is in the 96th percentile at his position, and even more importantly, his arms measure in at 33.5 inches, which falls in the 97th percentile. As if his athletic profile couldn't get more insane, Sauce also ran a 4.41 second 40-yard dash, solidifying his combination of size and speed in the freak of nature category. At 190 pounds, his weight is slightly below average, but Sauce has put on 30 pounds in the past 3 years since he arrived at Cincinnati as a true freshman, so an inability to put on weight at the next level is not a concern. When you watch Gardner play, it quickly becomes easy to understand why he was targeted so rarely in college. He played the vast majority of his snaps from a press alignment on the weak side X receiver, which allowed him to use his arm length to disrupt releases at the line of scrimmage. The X receiver lines up right on the line of scrimmage, whereas the strong side Z receiver lines up a yard off the line. So when going up against press coverage, the X has very little space between himself and the defensive back. Here, for example, there's maybe a yard separating Gardner and Notre Dame receiver Kevin Austin. Austin had been dealing with Gardner's jams at the line of scrimmage all day, so here he tried to swipe the hands away at the point of contact, but was never able to create separation. These jams at the line of scrimmage are Gardner's specialty. He's known for ending routes before they begin by out-muscling receivers at the line of scrimmage, and that's part of the reason why he was so rarely targeted last season. When a receiver's release is disrupted, the timing of the route is disrupted as well. And from a quarterback's perspective, a disruption in the timing of a route very often means it's best to just check off and move to the next read. Gardner disrupts timing so often that after a while, quarterbacks don't just avoid targeting him, they avoid looking his way entirely. Here, Alabama has a bunch formation to the bottom of your screen with a single receiver split out wide up top opposite Sauce Gardner. And if you watch Bryce Young's eyes, you can see that he never even looked to that side of the field. He knew he didn't need to look because that curl route was never going to get open, and even if it did, the timing would have been thrown off by the jam at the line of scrimmage. Gardner's 33.5-inch arms make it extremely difficult for receivers to dodge his jams at the line of scrimmage, and when those jams connect, the route is pretty much dead. There's no recovering from release disruption of this caliber and consistency, and even if a receiver were able to win at the line, Gardner has the speed to recover and make a play on the ball. He's displayed the ability to run with over routes and man coverage, and the awareness to break off of his man and make a play in the flat in zone. His tackling does need to improve moving forward, but this is a technical issue, not an effort one, because Sauce is more than willing to get his hands dirty at the line of scrimmage. He does have a tendency to get grabby with receivers at the break of the route, which will lead to penalties here and there in the NFL, but that's going to be the case for anyone who plays football with as much physicality as Gardner. The only other knock I have on him is that he played press almost exclusively in the games that I watched, and NFL corners are asked to play off much more than Sauce is used to. But this isn't an issue of inability, it's an issue of a lack of exposure. And considering his athletic profile, I'm not worried about him playing off coverage at the next level. The impact that a lockdown corner like Gardner can have on a defense is profound, especially considering the rise in the use of two high safety shells and split field coverages at the NFL level. Split field coverages are pretty much exactly what they sound like. The defense will split the field in half so that, assuming they send 4 pass rushers at the quarterback, they can guarantee a man advantage on each side of the formation in coverage. So on this play from the Super Bowl, Cincinnati lined up with 4 eligible receivers to Burrow's right and 1 to his left. And against a 4x1 formation, a split field coverage would look something like this. The outside corner to the top of your screen would match the opposing number 1 receiver on anything vertical, the slot corner would do the same with number 2, and the Sam and Mike linebackers would match the number 3 and 4 receivers respectively. The safety aligned to the passing strength of the formation, which in this case is the top of your screen, would offer vertical help to that side, and the safety to the other side would do the same on his side of the field. This is a super oversimplified explanation of a pretty complex coverage foundation, but the point is that split field concepts guarantee the defense a one-man advantage on both sides of the formation. And speaking in very general terms, this is what that would look like for most teams. But I used the Rams as an example because they have Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey is so good on an island that LA doesn't need an advantage to his side of the field. They can leave him alone and have the safety to his side rotate back toward the middle of the field in order to help the 4 receiver side. So that's a quick illustration of how a lockdown corner can change your defense from a schematic perspective in passing situations. Now, because corners are inherently less valuable than pass rushers at the NFL level, I don't think Gardner should go before Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau, but landing him anywhere outside the top 5 would be great value in my eyes. If Gardner turns out to be what I think he will be at the next level, he won't just elevate the defensive scheme, he will become the scheme. Before I go, I'd like to share a word from the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. If you have a business or are interested in starting one, Squarespace is a phenomenal resource for building your online presence. It's an all-in-one platform that can help get your brand off the ground or take your business to the next level by building a website. What you see on your screen now is the site I created for my brand, and all of this was done in under 2 hours. It's a really user-friendly service and offers tons of tools that can help you do whatever it is you want to do with a website. Personally, for now, I'm using it as a gallery to showcase my work on YouTube, so on the homepage you can see my recent videos. And once I finish scouting 2022 NFL draft prospects, I'll post my position rankings up there as well. Squarespace also offers an email marketing service, and it provides a platform to sell a product. Whatever you want to do to grow your brand, and wherever you are in the process, Squarespace has a service for you. So go to squarespace.com for a free 14-day trial. Then, when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/BillyStevens to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, that's squarespace.com/BillyStevens for 10% off your first purchase.